to me, you know, not being able to tuck your kids into bed in the evening, or sit down and, you know, share a meal with them, or even, you know, wake up and change their nappies in the middle of the night. I mean, they're all things that are very important roles as a parent, and all of a sudden you find yourself sleeping in a strange house, or, you know, even in my van. I had to sleep in my van a few nights because I didn't have places to stay. But it used to just break my heart to think that I couldn't be there for them and participate in their everyday life, you know.
My first 12 months of my separation, I distanced myself from the world, really. I really did. I stayed unemployed for my first 12 months. I hid away from family. I hid away from friends. I felt very unwanted. I felt very unloved.
There were days that I did not want to get out of bed because it was just so depressing. And I thought, oh no, you know, like, I know that I have to do certain things, right? But because, you know, you have to get the kids off to school, you have to have breakfast ready for them, that was a really good routine to follow. And that actually helped me.
You know, I still have moments of extreme pain, and you can't, sometimes you just got to go through it. You just got to cry, you just got to feel the emotion, go with it. But I think for the main thing is to actually express it, but talk to someone about it, get it off your chest, and then think, okay, what are my goals? You know, bring it right back in, and don't kind of, you know, leave yourself all over the place. It's like, what is my goal? My goal is for my child to have a good life, and I want this for myself.
I prayed a lot. I meditated. I drew on a pool of church friends. I read my Bible. And, you know, then I had counselling as well. And working out at the gym.
Wrote a lot. I wrote a lot of poetry during that time. Quite some of it now when I look at it and think, vicious. Really savage stuff that I wrote.
I kept a diary of my feelings. I didn't do it every day, but sometimes I would write things down, what was really pissing me off or really hard. Because when you're in the middle of it, you know, it seems like you're not going to get through it. And then a week later, I'd look back, I'd forgotten that. And I think, my goodness, I've moved on since then. So I could see the progress even though it was so small. And 6 months later, wow, did I really feel like that? So I think I've always believed, and I tell my children to keep records, I'm a list maker, that this sort of thing is quite useful for some people.
Counselling was really helpful. Just gave me tools, you know, to deal with it, and actually an objective perspective.
I was reading the paper one day and I saw a men's support group ad in the paper. I looked at it one day and I thought, that's what I need. I need to be around other people who have experienced what I was going through at the time. I rang up a men's support network in my local area, and I have no regrets whatsoever. I'm ringing those services. They were very, very helpful.
I went to my own counsellor, and I still see her periodically. So, and also my wonderful family at the beginning. But when, as I moved in through with my own private counsellor, I felt that I could share all my problems with the counsellor rather than burden my family, because they'd helped me so much at that beginning point, and you can't burn them out because you wanted them to continue to be part of your family.
I think that, you know, if you find a good support service like Bernardo's or Birthright to start with, that's your best, because they can help you do all of the things involved, you know, or support you through all of the things involved in separation.
The local marae was really good, and they had Māori women, I don't know if they were called marawas or what, but they would come around and see me and support me and be just beautiful. And also the Red Cross gave us blankets, and yeah, I'm so thankful for all the people down there that helped me when I really needed it.
Family Start, basically for families, they cater for Like if you run out of kai, they go to food banks. They're just there for your needs, really. They talk about a lot of, do you want to go for your licence? Do you want to go on a training course? Do you want to put your kids into creche? Just all the resources that, you know, that are there. They're all available.
Ruben did a great thing. His class, he was in, year 1 or 2 or something, and they passed this teddy bear around for news. And he'd been having a really tough time initially, quite sort of sad and quiet. And it just happened this day, the teddy bear came to Ruben, and so the teacher said, "Have you got any news, Ruben?" And he said, "Well, my dad left, and I only live with my mum now, and it makes me sad." And all the other kids who were like 6-year-olds piped up and said, "Oh, I live with my grandma. I don't even know who my dad is, I live with my dad. I don't see my mum, And Ruben suddenly discovered that there were all these kids like him. Not everybody was the way his family was. Some people are the way his family is now.
I would do 2 parent interviews. If the parents can't come together, I would be prepared to do 2 parent interviews if the mum wanted to come and then the dad. If a dad lives in another town, I would be quite happy to email him once a fortnight and just give him a couple of lines to let him know how his kid's going. Because I just think that sort of, if I was a parent, and just because I didn't have immediate custody of my child doesn't mean that I still don't want to know how they're doing at school and those little successes along the way. And I think that most probably a lot of parents wouldn't think to ask for those things. And I'm not saying all teachers would do it, but if I was a parent, I would certainly ask, what are the ways that I can keep in touch with you as the person who's spending 5 hours a day with my child, and just keep that communication open.
Like all our stuff were at my dad's, and like there was nothing at my mum's. We were just settling in and stuff. So it was kind of hard finding, my stuff, and I needed it, like for school and stuff, like your homework, you forget it and all that.
If a child is dropped off at the gate and they haven't got togs for swimming, to the parent who's got so much going on in their life and they've got this big emotional thing happening as well, it seems such a little thing. Okay, you haven't got your togs, you missed swimming today, it's not a big deal. But for that kid walking down the path into the classroom, it is a huge deal. Because more often than not, they'll be the only child without their togs. They have to tell the teacher they haven't got their togs. She's going to be maybe a bit grumpy because then she has to arrange for them to do something else while the rest of the class goes swimming. They see all their mates go off swimming and they're landed in another class doing some worksheet or whatever to keep themselves busy till the class come back. And so for that kid, the whole day sucks because they haven't got their togs. And I think we as adults, I'm a parent of 4 kids and I know I don't know if I've sent them off without their togs, but, I haven't heard their reading, or I haven't had the money ready for the school trip on the day it's supposed to, or I haven't signed the permission slip, and we all slip up. But for kids, those things can have a big impact on their learning and on their sense of well-being for the day.
Yeah, like, with your school reduction and plays and stuff, how, like, you might think that they don't sit with each other, but they do, they still sit with each other. Even if they got a boyfriend and girlfriend, they still sit and talk about you and laugh and still have, still have fun.
When you're at, say, a sport, you see both parents, and instead of one there and the other doing her own thing, but you also see them together. You don't see, like, say, mum on this side of the field and dad on this side of the field, like, giving each other evils and all, but you see them just laughing, having a great time, watching, like, me play sport or something, and just, talking how good I am, just things like that.
I love it when separated parents turn up together for the parent interview and the kid sits down with mum and dad and shares their successes and their goals for their schoolwork and their learning. And that could be really hard for parents to do that, but that's the ultimate I see for parents to be able to actually have that sort of sense that, yes, we're both there for you in your learning, we're both there for you in the things that are important in your life.
got entangled in the whole court process, and we were battling for probably four years all up. Every step of the way there was matrimonial property, there was custody and access, and that was like living in a vacuum. It was very unempowering. You had to wait, 6 months before the next court session, and you didn't know what was happening in your life until they'd made the decision on it. And it was an incredibly financially costly system too. So communication and something with a counsellor mediator is a lot more positive process.
In our situation, we were both kind of fighting for our child, and we were kind of throwing all the ammunition we could at each other. And so that was quite difficult to take. There was, I wouldn't say lies, but a lot of twisted truths,
I don't know, actually. I know nothing about the courts, whether it's public, but it seems in public to me because you're out in a place like in a courtroom. It's not the place you want to go and deal with, things of the heart, things of issues that pertain to what's most important to you, the love of your life, your child. And I just don't know, that just wasn't an option for us,
And I guess, it's the old saying, the only people that win at the end of the day are the lawyers, I feel, even though I ended up winning custody, for want of a better term, I feel like I didn't actually win a hell of a lot,
We needed other people to help us through that and explain the situation and lay down ground rules for us.
I thought that my dad loved Georgia more than me, so I got jealous.
Quite often kids don't like your new spouses because they're jealous. They don't like the fact that somebody else is taking mummy's time away from them. That somebody's replacing dad. There's all sorts of issues that come in. But I think they've also got to be aware that they're going to grow up one day and they're going to leave you and go out on their own lives. They're going to get their own partners and their own children. Where does that leave you? If you've put your children ahead of you all the time and you've not looked after your own personal needs, you're going to end up very, very lonely people.
I was very, very mean to him. Yeah. Well, that's when I was mainly, throwing things around and hitting people was when he was around.
For Mum's sake, I learnt to live with him and put up with him at first as well, because I didn't want her to be unhappy again.
I would really like for him to be able to meet someone and, have a move on and have another relationship. And my only concern is really is how they would treat the children. So I'm sure I have faith in his ability to monitor that.
Well, he tried and tried to, be my friend, but I just wouldn't accept him. But now I do, because I went to counselling.
I didn't want to force her to like my partner or dislike it. It was something that she had to sort of it was a decision that she had to make on her own. Because once she'd made that decision, then I knew that, things would be okay.
And when Mum had told us that he proposed to her, she asked us if it was all right. That took a long time to answer.
We tried to do it as slow as we could and sort of bring them into it. We were worried about the oldest one, Dane, who we thought would be the hardest to sort of come around. But the way we took it slower and things like that, he came around, and he's sort of the one, he comes to me, and so it's good. All of them have come around and thing. It's just taking time and getting to know them. Occasionally I tried to put in my way I used to do things, but it just doesn't work. So I had to adjust as well as they had to adjust.
When they first moved in, there was a couple of problems, like he kept bossing me around, and I got really upset and wouldn't do what he said, and that's why I went to Kerry and to sort out that, and then we got along way better after that.
We put a great amount of effort into parenting each other's children and making sure that we have quality time with each other's children as well as our children, so the kids don't perceive that they're being treated any differently. So we also do that sort of united front and share the whole parenting thing.
It's quite difficult that if my two children are playing up and Helen is having to discipline, I'm in the house and I hear her, pulling them up about something. You've just got to stand back and let them deal with it, rather than you think, well, they're my kids, I'm going to take that responsibility to tell them off. You've just got to let the other parent do their job, because
at the start it used to be like if I was telling Warren's boys off about something, if they'd been really naughty, and then you'd come in and then sort of get in there as well, and it's like they're being picked on by two parents. So in the end we talk a lot about it. We talk all the time about it, and that's, I think, the key thing to it. And we just said, look, if I'm telling such and such off, and don't come in, because then it looks like they're being really bullied by two parents. It's quite overwhelming for them.
As she got a little bit older, it would be things like, you can't tell me, you're not my real dad, and stuff like that, which was very funny at the time, actually.
Oh, to say that's right. No,
yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
No, you still
I'm
need
not,
to...
yes, I am your parent and you will do blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Gary's involved with heaps of us in school stuff, and he comes to school
and he drops these guys off to work and all that.
Yeah, it's cool.
She cracks a lot of funny jokes sometimes. She's quite funny. Yeah.
And she talks to her cats.
It's complete, eh?
Yeah,
it's complete.
Complete a family. I mean, every family's got to have a dad and a mum. Well, that's just from my view. And it's good financially as well. With just it was just us and mum. I mean, it was hard just to feed us.
Yeah.
And Gary helps out a lot, and he gives mum confidence. I don't know if he knows it, but yeah, he does. He gives mum heaps of confidence.
Yeah, we've seen it, eh? Mum's changed a lot, in a good way.
Mum's happier. Like even said before, when mum's happy, seeing mum happy makes us happy.
You happy.
Yeah.
And you just feel like you're on top of the world.
It's like a natural high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today, all of the people are living their lives. Today, beautiful people.
When you do become parents, it's not one person that makes the children, it's two parents, mother, and to me it's as black and white as that. Two people have the responsibility of these children, and if people can just forget the mamai, the pain, the hurt, the anger, the resentment in the situation, and remember that the children need to be the focus, then I'm sure that everything will pan out.
We will always be parents of David and Danielle, and I just want them to be happy and healthy and see that their parents can both turn up if they decide to get married or graduation, that their parents will always be there. And
I want them to be a top rugby player and a millionaire. So
that's our retirement.
I'm glad that my parents are split up. I'm glad. Life is so much easier than having Dad, waiting for Dad to come home and for Mum and Dad to start fighting again, because that's how it was. That's exactly how it was. They all the time they would fight.
It's a lot better than when they were together. There's virtually no arguments or anything. They're just friends. Yeah.
I've still got them, they're just not together. And I have one more family. I have a bigger family, so I have more love than with having my parents split than having them together.
It's like a monkey off my back, having a positive relationship with my ex-partner. The first 5 years were just a huge struggle. It was exhausting emotionally, mentally, financially, everything. And just getting on, being able to invite him in to your house and have a cup of tea and talk about the kids. It's sharing the load too. You're still a family in one context. Even though you're not together, you're still parenting together and you're supporting each other and you're able to support the children.
If you had gone back maybe a year and a half ago and said, would you two ever be friends, you know, me and their father, I would have said, no bloody way, I don't want to ever know him, and, you know, there's no way he's going to come round the kids or anything. Yeah, and where we've come now to the point where we can sit down and have, you know, a family conference and talk about what's good for our little family. Yeah, I would have said, no way, that's not going to ever be possible. But it is, and yeah, I find that comforting within myself that, you know, as individuals we've been able to put our differences aside for our kids' sake and sit down and let our kids tell us things. Yeah, so, and it's nice, you know, like even think about it now, I think, yeah, it's lovely.
Today, all of the people are living their lives.
The range of responses go from looking as if they're not affected at all, right through to, you know, very, very deep distress. And I think one would be worried if there was no response. I think that would be one thing to worry about, because it's pretty much impossible that a child isn't affected by the fact that their family is breaking up, if you like. So expect distress. And allow the distress, I think, is terribly important, to be able to say to the child, look, I know that you're feeling sad and angry and you know that you need to cry, or words to that effect. Acknowledge it and verify, if you like, their feelings.
The first thing parents need to keep in the back of their mind is that this is having quite a big effect on their kids, even if the kids aren't showing very much. So that's the very first thing. And children don't have a language to describe what's going on for them. So if a parent asks a child, how are you doing? And a child says, oh, all right, don't take that at face value. That parents actually need to develop the skills of really checking out with their children how they're doing. And sometimes that involves putting words out that a child can either agree with or disagree with. That ends up being quite a useful approach. For example, a parent can say to a kid, you know, are you really missing Dad? We haven't seen Dad for 8 or 9 or 10 days. Are you really missing him? And that'll get much more useful responses from a child than how are you doing or are you okay?
Listening to children is also clearly very important, and all of the research shows that if children don't get a chance to talk about how they're feeling, or not talk about how they're feeling actually, but to be asked about that, then they do a lot better. Sometimes children can't talk to their parents because they feel that the parents are too intimately involved with what is happening. So if they can't talk very openly with their mothers and their fathers, then it's important to provide somebody else. That most commonly is likely to be some member of the extended family, grandparents in particular, but other family members like aunts or uncles. And each family will know who might be the appropriate person to be there for that child to talk.
As a general rule, most kids will regress a little bit after separation because it's really stressful for them, and so they will go back to a developmental stage where they felt a little bit more confident, or they had some skills at that younger stage to elicit the love and care of their parents. So the point of regressing is to get themselves feeling safer and to elicit care. You know, be really kind in the early stages. That's the main thing. Be super kind. Understand that regressing is a kid's way of meeting their needs and a kid's way of getting help from you.
No two children cope in the same way, and they have a variety of coping responses, and it's pretty important to try and understand what is going to work best for that child. So some children will want to do a lot of talking and discussion about what's going on. Others will want just to be distracted, to be doing other things. The important things for children, I think, are to be given the opportunity to ask questions, to be given information, but then for the adults to try and read what they need, because they will need to get on with their lives. And one of the key things for children is to have stability and sameness as much as possible. So, for example, if it takes months and months for decisions to be made about where they're going to live and what the visiting arrangements are going to be, that's bad for children. They need a specific, and the younger they are, the more specific it needs to be, specific kind of concrete arrangements as early as possible, so that they know that on Wednesday, for example, they go to Dad's house and stay till Sunday, or whatever the arrangements are. But if that keeps chopping and changing, the uncertainty doesn't help them to cope.
The one good thing about there's a few good things about separation, in fact. Turns out to be quite a lot. One of the greatest things about separation is it should be an end to parents' conflict.
What we know, and this is from every bit of research that there is really, that if you had to choose one factor that had the biggest negative impact on children, it is parental conflict.
I don't think parents really understand the impact of the put down, the derogatory comment about the other parent. So they can do a lot for their child by stopping doing it themselves, even if the other parent doesn't.
Children, particularly younger children, pre-adolescent children, get a great deal of their self-esteem from thinking well